Mark Wahlberg has announced that he is leaving California, or he's definitely
What?
leaving
No.
Los Angeles. And instead, he is setting up a shop in Nevada, both for family reasons and also because he is hoping to help establish a Hollywood 2.0 in Nevada. And Chris, as a proud resident of California and LA and a staunch defender of the city and its policies, I say in the most ironic terms possible. I wonder what are your thoughts on this, and do you see many others who are thinking along those lines, that places like Nevada suddenly might prove an alternative to Hollywood?
Well, I will say this. I live in Pasadena. Pasadena is very different than Los Angeles. Pasadena is the Orange County of LA County. Anyone in California will understand what that statement is. Basically, Pasadena is very conservative, blue collar, reminds me of where I grew up in Michigan. Royal Oak, Michigan is where I grew up, which is just a suburb of Detroit, right? Sort of next to Detroit. And I love Pasadena. It's great. I mean, the problem is that all the crazy of California comes from two cities, San Francisco and Los Angeles. And Los Angeles has turned into, I like to say, it's like Gotham City with rampant crime, but there's no Batman to save us. It's awful. And I don't subscribe. I despise the state of California and its policies. I hope to, like an optimistic Luke Skywalker, turn California back to the good side. But I will say this: if I had young children, there is no way I would be homeschooling them in California. There's no way I'd be raising them. In fact, when my kids were young in the 90s, we moved kind of to Pasadena and further out to get away from California because I saw how terrible the parents are here. They're just awful. I mean, just like sort of like what I mean, it wasn't the term woke, but they were just sort of these like very extreme liberal parents that basically had free range children that were freaking morons, that had no boundaries, that were undisciplined and were just horrible kids. And I kept my kids away from those crazy fucking kids. So yeah, if I were Mark Wahlberg, I would have done the same thing. I'm, I really want to leave this state. The problem is there's too many people here I still care about. There are a lot of people here I care about, and but if I had young children, I would get up and leave. He's right, and this is look. Every month I hear about a new friend of mine that's like, "Well, I made a go of it. I'm getting out of here. I'm moving to Arizona. I'm moving to Texas. I'm moving to Florida." It's a mass exodus. Can California be changed from within? Yes, I think if there are free and fair elections, I think it can be changed from within. They tried to get rid of that corrupt DA from the city of Los Angeles who's soft on crime. And they had enough signatures to put it on the ballot, but they threw it out because some of the signatures didn't pass muster. But people are pissed. There have been protests related to that. I mean, I think that there's, at least from where I sit and everyone that I talk to, there will hopefully be a sea change with this next election. People that were just completely agnostic. I never even knew what their politics were, but we're friends. We're saying like, this crazy on this side is pretty batshit. And my voting is, I just vote for the side that is the least crazy because I despise them all. I think they're all just sort of in the pockets of corporations and special interests, all of them. So what is the side that's the least crazy? Well, I think we all know what that is. But I think in particular, when it comes to children, the fact that, and this happened to a friend of mine who, and I don't know how much we want to like get into this, Andre, please feel free to cut me off. But my friend whose daughter, wanted to gender transition at the age of 14, and it tore apart his marriage. They had, social workers coming in, they wanted to give her drugs and he didn't approve it. He says, I'm not giving my daughter drugs to become a boy. This is ridiculous. Rejected it. Child Protective Services came in and separated him from his daughter, tore apart his marriage, destroyed his family.
Well, he was lucky because Homeland Security could have come and thrown him in jail for that, from what I understand.
I mean, it changed my mind about the issue. This directly happened to a friend of mine. It's disgusting. Parental rights is a big deal. You're not going to tell me how to raise my kids, period. It is the only thing. It is my only fear. My only fear is harm coming to my child. You do that, you cross that line, all bets are off. I'm not being specific, but it's the only thing that would drive me to do something that is unthinkable, is any harm coming to my child. And I think that any responsible parent probably thinks the same way. So yeah, Mark Wahlberg is protecting his kids. He's getting them out of there, doesn't want him influenced by a bunch of batshit narcissists, which is what this state is filled with. Not necessarily the state, but I will say definitely LA and San Francisco.
A few postcodes.
Yeah, it's literally two cities that define the state of California. But I can just tell you, go to Orange County, go to other parts of the state. Much more, and forget conservative, put that word, more based, more common sense. That is the realm in which I lie, is being common sense about many things. Having raised two normal kids, that are now actually adults in their 20s. And they never got into drugs. They never got pregnant or got anyone pregnant, didn't do anything. I would always tell my kids, don't be an idiot and don't do stupid shit, and I would see their friends. And luckily the friend groups that my kids were into were decent kids with decent families. Right. But man, California, but that's because I was like way outside of LA, right? Like LA is a shit show. I don't know how you could raise a child in LA and have them not be influenced by nonsense being promoted by batshit narcissists. It's really the thing that just narcissism was always a thing in the entertainment industry, and in Hollywood, whatever you want to call. The thing that threw gasoline on the fire was social media. That escalated everything was social media. And I think the thing that thankfully, wherever you stand on the pandemic, the thing that exposed, our institutions and whatnot was having a pause to be able to look at it, having parents being able to see what their children were being taught. This has exposed everything. The veil was lifted for but a moment and woke everyone up. That was the Matrix moment for a lot of people. A lot of people were whatever pill, a lot of people took a lot of pills, black pill, red pill, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people swallowed a lot of pills that were tough to swallow, that they wouldn't have had the opportunity if just the world were progressing normally, right? We're being entertained. We're over entertained as our current generation. We're way over entertained. Taking a pause from that for a minute allowed us to take a look around us. And that's why I think you see like the work exodus. That's why you see the sort of, what do they call that? The quiet quitting, people looking like, yeah, maybe I don't want to do this mindless job. I want to do something else. Although I will say a mindless job, many mindless jobs have gotten me to where I am. I worked at Burger King for a summer. I worked at a gas station. I've worked a lot of jobs. It's eye-opening. It's like, okay, this is what I like to call those jobs Mick jobs. They're jobs that help you get to where you want to be, but you don't care about them. That's why I'm always very understanding of anyone who works in a service job. And that to me was, when I was single and dating, that was always a red flag, was a woman who treated service people poorly, was like, oh, that's a terrible person. And they have no empathy whatsoever for people in those types of jobs, because I've done those jobs. I was a dishwasher at 2 different restaurants. I worked all through high school so I could afford a VCR and to buy movies and to buy a car. So I could go, basically, so I could buy a car to go. Most teenagers, at least from my era, wanted to buy a car so they could go get laid. I wanted to buy a car so I could go to movies. Okay, that's my story. But I'm sorry, Andre, I'm kind of dominating the conversation here, but you've sort of hit some things that have really pissed me off. And Mark Wahlberg, more power to it. Mark Wahlberg is big.
This is my point. I think that I'm sorry to intercut, but that's why I brought it up, because I think that this is something really big, and he's saying that he's moving, 1, to protect his family, 2, to set up Hollywood 0.20. And I can't think of any better person to comment on that than you. And to that end, I do believe that you probably do reflect his mindset.
Yes, no, and I also think what I'm tired of, and we talked about this before, is I'm just tired of people who don't have kids trying to lecture me about how kids should be raised. I don't know if you saw, and first of all, I don't watch this show, but it was John Oliver talking about a lot of this, and he has no reason to be speaking on this topic. I think you need to have children. If you have children, then you have a vested interest. And there's a lot of married couples in Los Angeles entertainment, whatever, in California, that don't have kids, that feel the need to express and virtue signal how they feel about how I should raise my kids or how everyone else should raise their kids. And to those people, I say, shut the fuck up.
Well, not only that, two of the main commentators for this type of thing, being Oliver and what's his dumbass over on the Daily Show, aren't even American.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, they don't really have any say in this shit. And how would an American comedian get treated right now if they went over to some other country and started making fun of their politics? They'd get canceled quicker than shit. Wow. But yet, for some reason over here, that's just invited. And I think that's part of the problem where we've gotten where we're at, is we've allowed people to come over here and talk shit about us without any reason or rhyme to worry about it. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. Yeah, it is in the end, because look at all these people who don't listen. And as far as Wahlberg, I'm not surprised he's making this move. He had a movie come out earlier this year and nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I thought it was pretty decent. And the only reason I heard about it was because I happened to be driving one day and I couldn't get it because I live in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. I don't get shit for goddamn radio stations. The only radio station usually comes in is the oldie station that literally plays the same 5 songs over and over on ad nauseum every day at the same time. So I was flipping through and a Catholic station comes on and it's an advertisement for the new Mark Wahlberg movie.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And this movie's rated R, but yet this Catholic channel is advertising for it because nobody else is.
Yeah. I know, it's bizarre.
And I'm not saying it just because it's the idea of that it's religious. It's just that it goes against everything that they're for in Hollywood right now, right? Like I can't even believe the movie got made in the first place. But no, like
you're talking about Father Stew.
Yeah, Father Stew, which was
I heard about that months ago.
Yeah, it was a decent film, and it got no traction whatsoever. None.
Well, Mel Gibson was working on that too, wasn't he?
I think he's one of the executive producers, and he's in the movie, yeah. If he's not an executive producer, I think he's just in the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, he's just in the movie. I mean, it was produced by Mark and his buddy Levinson, so Stephen Levinson and Jordan Foss. But
based on a true story and everything, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't a big budget film. It was like $4 million. It made, I think, like 16 to 20 million. It didn't make that much money, and it didn't get any support. So
none.
However it was released, I mean, I vaguely recall it, but I didn't even get a chance to see it. I just heard about it. It's one of the things we covered.
Sony distributed it, but they barely distributed it.
Yeah,
it's kind of a bummer.